but we're just talking about Donald Trump's latest Truth Social message to the Iranian people. But we will continue this conversation now. Hopefully we'll get Jason back up, but we'll go to Sabah Baluchi, human rights advocate and US speaker specializing in Iranian minorities. Sabah, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's just begin with the UN human rights chief says he's horrified by mounting violence in Iran and is urging restraint. What's the scale of the crisis engulfing the country right now?
Well, it's very worrying, and it seems to only be intensifying day by day. The government is using new tactics to bring about oppression and oppressing its people, and it's not giving up in that sense. So, for example, today we've received news that even satellites are being shut down, so that the people are not able to, within Iran to be able to access channels externally, internationally, to be updated on what's happening, along with obviously the internet blackout, which is still continuing. People are able to now be able to, well, in some regions, be able to call internationally. So if they are within Iran, to be able to call externally, but not internationally within Iran. So that raises again a few eyebrows. Why is that so? It seems that it is a tactic to again silence his people and to control and perhaps listen into and to hold people that they can then directly hold accountable if they do share information that they shouldn't be sharing. So the regime is unfortunately stepping up its tactics and creating more and more oppression of its people. I mean, as you mentioned, Volker Turk, the UN human rights chief, did mention, and he said today, I quote, "The killing of peaceful demonstrators must stop, and the labeling of protesters as terrorists to justify violence against them is unacceptable." So we can just see when this regime is labeling these protesters and that they're within their human rights to be able, the freedom of expression and demonstration and protest, labeling them as terrorists is very worrying, and it does not give hope that there will be any peace coming anytime soon.
And I just wanted to ask you, because just before we came on air, Donald Trump has been posting on Truth Social, and he says, Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions, help is on the way. What do you make of what Donald Trump is telling the people of Iran right now? You've outlined how the regime is cracking down. There's an internet blackout. Things are difficult for protesters going on the streets, calling for change. And what does Donald Trump's message send to a country of nearly 90 million people where military action has been threatened?
Absolutely. Well, I think he is trying to encourage the people not to give up. We are here. And unfortunately, it seems that international intervention is perhaps needed in order to topple the regime that the people so desperately want to overturn and have something different. So I think he wants, obviously, the people to continue and the change to perhaps come from within Iran, so that this change is... The people of Iran have created this revolution. I guess he's just waiting, and perhaps there are things being put in place, perhaps, to intervene at the right time.
And the Iranian government officials have said the death toll following nationwide protests has now reached 2,000, which includes security personnel, and have blamed terrorists for the deaths. The regime appears to be cracking down with excessive force to try to keep a grip on power. We're talking about regime change, but what is possibly next for the country? Because this appears to be something that is difficult to actually make happen.
Well, you see, Leanne, the issue is the woman life freedom never stopped. So this is a continuation, we can say, of this movement. Because the oppression just continues and continues. And when there was this economic kind of turn that happened right after Christmas and the beginning of this new year, it was enough. It was like the people were saying, we've reached this level. It's unacceptable. We can't afford to live a basic life anymore. We can't afford to buy food. So the people, and when you hear the chants and you hear the people who are within Iran and talking about what they are experiencing, it is an existential battle between the people of Iran and the the existence of the Islamic Republic. So for them, there is no other way, unfortunately, but to lose your life. I mean, who would freely offer their life? I don't think anyone would. So it just gives us a look into how dire the situation, the life is, that people have resulted in facing open fire. And this is what has been reported: machine guns, open fire, bullets in the back of the heads of peaceful demonstrators. Even women, children even have been reported killed from human rights organizations. So it's very worrying. And unfortunately, this is the only way for the people of Iran they see right now.
Extremely frightening, the scenes that you are explaining, but of course difficult to get information out of Iran because we have had these internet blackouts. But let's talk about Iran, because we mentioned the economy is really struggling in the country, but Iran has huge oil wealth. It's actually part of OPEC. It's also so strategically important. What regional and global implications does the unrest in Iran have across the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, it is a major energy and oil producer, not just for the neighboring countries, but globally. So as long as this unrest continues, this uncertainty is going to be about. And the neighboring countries, I think, will be the first to feel the impact of this unrest. I mean, from past experiences, we can say that oil prices have risen when there is such a kind of a situation. So that's just, I mean, the tip of the iceberg in terms of what could happen and the foreseen, the future.
And you know, a lot of European countries today, Sabah, it's been quite interesting, have summoned the Iranian ambassador for talks, which I found quite interesting. We're seeing that in the UK and various other countries. But what can the United Nations and other European countries realistically do to stop the regime's crackdown on protesters and help those who have been targeted? What is their options right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, the United Nations itself cannot directly intervene with the situation, unfortunately. So it's a powerful platform, and they can put pressure on the diplomats and the representative countries. But what the diplomatic people, they could do is put pressure again on the Iranian representatives. The UN itself can collect documents of the human rights violations that's taking place. So, for example, we've got the International Fact-Finding Mission for Iran that is still active, and I'm sure that they will then be collecting lots of information, writing reports that are then presented in the United Nations, the councils that are then they put direct pressure on the Iranian representatives there. So in terms of direct, perhaps very limited, but indirect, and the pressures, there are many. As we heard today as well from Volker Turk, I mean, he's the UN human rights chief is aware of it, and his statement is very powerful, and being able to say this on the platform, the UN platform itself. So yeah, there are a number of things that could take place and could help the situation.
Sabah Balushi, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.